Drunkenly, I threw Campus Alpha's designer belt into a hot pot and gave it a shag, also chewed on it like it was a beef jerky. $10,000 for a tooth mark afterward. Campus Alpha came to me for $200,000, was dumbfounded. I just gnawed on your designer belt, not your meat. He flicked his eyelids, sneered, and pulled down the neckline, revealing the red teeth marks on his collarbone. Now what? I'm not going to be able to do that. Roses weave dreams of romance, each petal a new chapter of love to explore. Chase to see roses, romantic meaning endless, romance will never cease. Be sure to like, comment, forward, follow, turn on the little bell. Beautiful drama on Time to Embrace. I'm Tina Tang, a law-abiding college student. Before, I was a fiercely independent woman. In the future, I may have to beg for food for the rest of my life. My ex-boyfriend Jason Chin dumped me and went to be with my girlfriend, went to a very expensive hot pot restaurant and treated every piece of meat as if it were Jason Chin. I cursed scummy guy as soon as I shook my chopsticks, didn't pay attention and drank my head off, didn't realize that it was Campus Alpha's birthday. A few of his buddies were also in the private room of that store, celebrating his birthday. Remembered that the girl Jason Chin cheated on was Penelope Ng, the sister of Campus Alpha. Drunk and courageous, I drunkenly barged in. Retaliated by eating a bunch of stuff from their box. At the end of my memory, I had been nibbling on beef jerky shirts and duck necks, but it turns out, the beef jerky I was nibbling on wasn't beef jerky at all. It was a belt from Campus Alpha. It's a handmade cowhide belt made by a French designer. The story goes that the belt was delivered to him as a birthday present, and he didn't even get a chance to look at it. It was thrown into the hot pot by me. No wonder he couldn't bite it. As for the duck neck on my shirt, I glanced at Byron Pierce's clavicle with a circle of teeth marks made by my bite. Byron Pierce inclined his head, straightened his collar with thin, cold white fingers and looked at me askance. Little teeth are pretty sharp, Dottie. If I didn't know that Campus Alpha doesn't beat up girls, I doubt my life would be over here today. I blushed in shame and lowered my head. I drank too much yesterday. Why don't I take you to get an injection first? Byron Pierce's voice is clear and cold. No emotion can be heard. The injection, you have rabies? Goddamn rabies. I look like a dog, but I'm sober enough now to know better. I meant to take you for a tetanus shot. Byron Pierce was silent, then his eyes drooped and he looked lazy. No, just add me on WeChat. If my roommates knew that I could get Campus Alpha's WeChat, they would probably clang against the wall with envy. But I couldn't laugh at all. Should be for the convenience of letting me transfer money to him to lose money, right? In an instant, a huge debt of 200,000 yuan pressed down like a mountain. Not of course, I was not willing to do so. So I red-faced and argued, if you're going to claim $200,000 from me, shouldn't you pay me for my boyfriend too? Byron Pierce froze and raised an eyebrow. Boyfriend? What, you want to give yourself up for the debt? I denied it. That's not what I meant. Byron Pierce laughed. His long fingers lit a cigarette, and his movements were a bit wild and unruly, with an air of coolness and lack of desire. So what do you mean? I explained stiffly. My boyfriend was taken away by your sister. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have come here to drink. I hadn't gotten drunk. I wouldn't have shagged your designer belt and nibbled on your, I said, quietly watching Byron Pierce's face. So you see, the root of this is actually your sister. So you see, the root cause of this is your sister. And if your sister did this, you, as the older brother, should take some responsibility, right? Byron Pierce looked at me with a condescending pocketed look, his eyes cold in the smoke. I don't have a sister. Now I was confused. Penelope Ng is not your sister? This department flower is in the school all over the world to proclaim that she is the Pei family's daughter, but also said that Campus Alpha is her brother. Byron Pierce, however, didn't seem to want to bring up the subject of Penelope Ng, and his tone was a little irritable. It's an ass. Well, it looks like there's a grudge. I can only first trembling added Byron Pierce's WeChat. I don't know if it's just me. After Byron Pierce passed my friend verification, the corner of his mouth curled up, surprisingly a little satisfied. How much does he want me to lose money? I wanted to go first, but Byron Pierce's arms were braced, and he caught me off guard as he circled the corner of the building. Tina Tang, don't renege. You owe me more than that. He knew my name? Have we crossed paths before, or did he check me out on purpose? Oh, screw it. Byron Pierce was so close that when I tilted my head slightly, I saw the beautiful knot of his throat close by, with my shameful teeth marks next to it. Where's the action? Like a demand for money? My face heated up and I subconsciously made a swallowing motion, averting my eyes, not daring to look again. His magnetic voice swept over my ears. You promised that what you owe me, you will pay back. When did I promise this? In a hurry. I looked straight at him and retorted offhandedly. Just met him, absolutely never said such words. Besides, if you sell me, you don't have $200,000, how can I pay back? Byron Pierce looked at me like I had a hook in my eye, and there was an insistence in his tone. You don't remember, but I do. You don't remember, but I remember. He remembers what? When I got back to my dorm room, I silently checked my balance. $250.25. Then I called my mom with anxiety. Mom, I don't have any money. My mom seemed to be busy with something, a little noisy around me, and her speech was absent-minded. I know, I'll transfer $80,000 to you in a moment. $80,000. My parents are ordinary retired workers. Usually give me to play living expenses are $2,000. When did they become so generous? I immediately brainstormed a big scene where my parents were invisible rich people, excited heart, trembling hands. But just when I wanted to kiss the old queen's ass more so shed. Give more. My mom got impatient. Is there anything else? No, I'm hanging up. I'm playing mahjong tile. Okay, I was overthinking it. My mom was just teasing me with a joke. In the end, the bank card arrived at 2,000. Fortunately, after my persistent microblogging, selling and dumping, Byron Pierce finally relented, agreed to pay me only 1/10 of the damages, $200,000 in debt, $20,000 in a flash, and I could pay it back in monthly installments. After all, I ruined a six-figure luxury designer belt. It's not easy to reduce it to this level. I'll accept the damages. In order to be frugal, I even skipped dinner at night and just ate cucumbers. Was also going to find a part-time job and try to pay it off as soon as possible. Only, before the plan could be implemented, a photo suddenly exploded on the campus confession page. In the photo, there is a cool and handsome boy with his hands propped up on the wall, and he is holding a girl in his arms. His movements were strong, but his eyes were gentle. Like he was confessing. The cucumber I was holding in my mouth barked and fell. Because the boy is campus alpha, the girl is me. My roommates, with a look of being high on something, shook me into a tumbleweed. Tina Tang, you're not enough. You've been confessed to by campus alpha and you didn't tell us. I was numb. If I say, he didn't confess, he was actually asking me for money. Do you believe me? There was a moment of silence in the dormitory. Simply summarized the ridiculous things I did when I was drunk. As a result, the way they looked at me changed, like they were looking at a strange species, but soon, they started getting inexplicably high again. How about you actually give yourself to me? Yes, Campus Alpha is better looking than Jason Chen, so you've taken advantage of it. It's not a loss. It's not important to pay back the money or anything. You first tell us the details of last night. Help. I collapsed on the bed to hold up my body and gave up struggling. I've had the title of Byron's crush ever since. Went viral in school. Because of this, even when I went to the cafeteria to eat, I purposely picked a time when there were fewer people. However, I avoided my classmates, but not my ex. Coincidentally, Jason Chen and Penelope Ng were sitting across from me, looking like they were in love. Penelope Ng is the flower of the department and the legendary rich white beauty, but also came to eat in the low-priced school cafeteria. Rare. She swept a glance at me with that attitude of total contempt, and the next second, she handed the drink bottle in her hand to Jason Chen, her voice petulant. Brother Chen, help me screw the cap on the bottle. Jason Chen took the bottle and willingly served her. In the past, when he was with me, he never did this for me. Get it. Turns out Penelope Ng didn't come to eat. She deliberately brought Jason Chen to run to the cafeteria to disgust me. The chile sauce in my bowl instantly stopped tasting good. To avoid regurgitation, I decided to stay away from the pair, but just as I was about to leave, Jason Chen opened his mouth to call me. Sissy, I want to talk to you. Let's have dinner together? Let's have dinner together, me and his new love. I laughed. It is said that a qualified ex should be as good as dead. Jason Chen, can you stay dead? Jason Chen's expression immediately sank. He took 2 steps towards me and used a questioning tone. Are you really with Byron Pierce? I came up with a rush of anger. Why, if you can go with a department head, I can't go with a campus alpha. Jason Chen's expression was ugly. It was as if it was some kind of shame for him to have a new boyfriend so soon after I broke up with him. Penelope Ng, however, suddenly snorted from behind. Forget it, Tina Tang. Byron Pierce is my brother. Don't I know him? He's a tough guy. You can't get through him. After hearing that, I felt like I was holding my breath in my chest. Penelope Ng was telling the truth. But just then, a lazy sneer came from not far away, who said that, whether my bones are soft or hard, she has already gnawed on them. Penelope Ying's face instantly went white as soon as she heard those words, and I turned my head. I saw Byron Pierce's tall, thin, and elongated silhouette as if it were plated with light, striding toward me. At that moment, I was a little shaken. Why? Byron Pierce toward me. This scene, I seem to have experienced, this thought together. Suddenly, there are some fine images flashed from my mind. I was surprised that a strange memory came out of nowhere. I remembered a man. He looks exactly like Byron Pierce, even his name is the same. The difference is, he was no longer dressed as a gangly student, but in an expensive suit. That Byron Pierce looks to have been 26 or 27 years old or so, slender figure, with untamed and overbearing aura. During the day, he always looks reserved and indifferent in front of people, but at night, he will be like a fierce little wolf dog, sticking to my side, with red eyes, as if gambling, saying to me, "Tina Tang, I can't sleep, coax me, Tina Tang. The gift is in the check room, it's your favorite Chanel limited edition, Tina Tang. Is it me or the RMB that looks good, Tina Tang? Don't you like money? I'll give you a lot of money, call me husband." This memorized conversation came to an inexplicable and abrupt end. After coming back to my senses, I stared blankly at Byron Pierce in front of me. The memory of the man's cool, arrogant face gradually overlapped with the oncoming teenager. I was confused. Could it be that this recent scandal of I was confessed to by Campus Alpha has been spreading too much, and coupled with being in huge debt, so am overstressed, causing me to be mentally unbalanced? I even fantasized that I would be sharing a bed with Campus Alpha, calling him my husband, and being given a closet full of Chanel by him. This daydreaming is really great. Though confused as hell, I tried to pull myself back to reality. Byron Pierce walked up to me, was afraid that he would spread the shame of my drunkenness 2 days ago, so I hurriedly reminded him in a low voice, "We are pure classmates, you pay attention, don't say anything." Byron Pierce frowned and asked in a cool voice, "I'm talking nonsense, listening to his tone." I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, the next second Byron Pierce lifted his bony hand and rubbed his collarbone somewhere through the material of his shirt. "You nibbled on it the other night and praised it for its fragrance. It's only been 2 days and you're already denying it, Tina Tang. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Help." I did think he smelled good, but wasn't it because I was drunk and treated it as if I was nibbling on a duck neck? However, I can't explain. This kind of explanation will only make it worse. My face was burning. The corner of Byron Pierce's mouth hooked slightly, as if he had gotten his way. Only in the next second, he turned his head to look at Jason Chen again and opened his mouth to throw out a mean sentence. "Is this your stupid ex-boyfriend, me?" Jason Chen is the famous god of the school, and he is also handsome. No one has ever dared to call him a douchebag. Byron Pierce's tongue is really poisonous. I was somehow relieved to hear that, so I agreed. "That's right." Byron Pierce snorted. "Were you blind before? Why did you fall for him?" I continued to nod. "Yes, I used to be blind, but now I'm cured." Jason Chen listened to me and Campus Alpha going at it with an ugly expression on his face. "Psyche, I know you're with Byron Pierce to gamble with me, but I really don't love you anymore. You have to take responsibility for your future." I almost spit out my dinner. Didn't see it before. Jason Chen is so good at putting gold on his face. Who does he think he is? Is he worth my anger? At this moment, Penelope Ng stood out, pointing at me with an aggrieved face and complaining to Byron Pierce, "Brother, how can you hang out with a girl like her? Her family is very poor." Jason Chen said her monthly living expenses are only $2,000. Is this Byron Pierce's sister? The difference in personalities is too great. Besides, what's she got to do with me being poor? I secretly looked up at Byron Pierce. His side face was cold, and when he spoke his voice was even colder. "Meng Ying, do you really think that because your mom married my dad and you changed your last name along with him you can be my sister? You used to be poorer than her. You wouldn't have forgotten so quickly, would you?" "Oh, I get it." Penelope Ng was originally named Meng, not Pei. She always said that Campus Alpha is her brother and pretended to be affectionate, but it turned out to be a lie. She is not Byron Pierce's real sister. Rather, she was brought in by her stepmother, probably because her worst side had been demolished. Penelope Ying's expression stiffened and her lips quivered, but she couldn't say a word. Remembered Penelope Ng just now with Jason Chen, flaunted the way, suddenly came to the fighting spirit. I picked up a bottle of sriracha and handed it to Byron Pierce, deliberately opening my mouth to ask, "Brother Yuya, can you help me unscrew the cap of the bottle?" Those 3 people were all subdued by my sudden pampering. Penelope Ng completely tensed up and glared at me in annoyance. "You're shameless." I ignored her, but desperately squeezed my eyes at Byron Pierce, begging for cooperation. Byron Pierce's cold and beautiful eyes stared at me for 3 seconds, and soon a low laugh spilled out from his thin lips. "Okay, Tina Tang, if you pamper yourself one more time, don't talk about screwing the bottle cap, even if it's someone else's skull." I'll screw it for you, he said. I never thought Byron Pierce would be a better actor than me. He always had a wild and untamed cold about him, and looked really hard to get close to, but when he looked at me just now his eyes were actually a little tender. You don't know. You'd think he's coming with me for real. Penelope Ing was so exasperated by us that her mind collapsed and she flung her head away. Jason Chin, on the other hand, grimaced and said to me, Tina Tang, I didn't expect you to be this kind of girl. You really disappoint me. I felt ridiculed. Jason Chin, have you ever cared about me? You don't care about me. You only ask me to buy you medicine when you're sick. When your clothes are dirty, you ask me to wash them for you. When you're hungry, let me cook for you. The whole semester you've been with me, you haven't been looking for me as a girlfriend, you've been using me as a babysitter, right? Even when you broke up with me, you only notified me routinely and sent me off with a single message, and you still have the face to say that I let you down. Jason Chin, I am the one who is disappointed. I used to like you, but now you make me especially down. I spat out a series of words like a small steel gun. Jason Chen's lips moved as if he wanted to explain something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Why don't you get lost? Byron Pierce coldly opened his mouth, accompanied by a click, unscrewing the cap of the sriracha bottle for me. At some point, he bit into another cigarette on his lips. Between gulps of smoke, Byron Pierce's entire person was permeated with an impatient mania in the smoke. The whole school knew Byron Pierce once had a fight with someone, and almost opened the door to them. Because of this, Byron Pierce was even given a warning note. Jason Chin had a look of resignation in his eyes, but finally turned his head and walked away. Guess he was really afraid of being screwed by Byron Pierce. After Jason Chin and Penelope Ing left, I wilted. After all, Jason Chin was my first love. Now that it's come to this, it's a lie to say I'm not sad. I pretended to be fine, and with sriracha, I continued to dry my rice. Only, as I ate, I couldn't hold back. My nose turned sour, and I shed a tear. Byron Pierce was sitting across the table with his legs stretched out, watching me cry. This debtor is full of low pressure. Thought of how much money I still owed him and wondered when I would be able to pay it off. I couldn't help but cry even harder. Shit, Byron Pierce let out a grumpy low curse. Is that grandson worth crying over like that? I shook my head. It's not worth it. I just want to cry for him when he's dead. Byron Pierce. His thin lips tightened and he looked at me for a moment longer before he said, have you ever heard that if a living person cries too much after he dies, he won't want to leave? I hiccuped and asked curiously, does Campus Alpha read ghost stories too? Byron Pierce's expression froze and he choked on his smoke, coughing, and after a while, he urged me in disgust, hurry up and eat your food. It was only then that I realized Byron Pierce should have come to the cafeteria for a dry meal as well, but it was already late, and he had just stood up for me. So now the cafeteria ants had left, and he didn't have any food to eat. After much consideration, I politely asked the debtor, are you hungry? Do you want to eat together? I have chili sauce. Byron Pierce had a cold, dead face and spoke with a bad breath. No, I'm not hungry. I've had my fill of jealousy. Jealous? I looked at him blindfolded, brainstorming and wide-eyed. No, so you also like Penelope Ing. No wonder you did not admit that she is your sister. Did you play that scene with me just now to irritate her? Having been addicted to romance novels for many years, I immediately brainstormed a forbidden brother-sister romance in a luxurious family. Who else is he jealous of? It can't be me. Haha, I'm just a bitter debtor who can count on one hand the number of times I've seen him. Byron Pierce was probably bowled over by my wisdom, wore a look that said it all. Finally, he gritted his teeth and praised me. Tina Tang, why are you so smart? When he said the word smart, he also purposely added accents. Humph, I broke it down right. Only, if you're praising me, then praise me properly. Why does he look like he's about to blow a gasket? I felt that I had spied on Campus Alpha's secret, and this should be a good opportunity to negotiate, so I spread my small hands. I want hush money. How much? I said, 500. Byron Pierce ruffled his eyelids and smiled. If nothing else, okay, minus 500, you still owe me 19,500. A bloody loss. Comrades, he agreed so readily. It seems the secret is worth a lot of money. I'll have to settle for less. I should have asked for more. I'm frustrated. I feel like I'm missing out on $1 billion. Byron Pierce looks at me funny. Why don't you just work for me part-time and I'll count you in at 100 an hour? I looked up instantly. Really? What do you want me to do on the side? Do your homework, run errands for you? Byron Pierce snorted. That's what little brothers do. Well, that's true. As a Campus Alpha and a rich man, Byron Pierce was surrounded by minions. So what's my job? Byron Pierce stubbed out his cigarette and turned his head. His cold, hard side face had nice lines, and he opened his mouth with a lazy, slow voice. You will be responsible for doing what girlfriends should do. The air suddenly quiet. I was dumbfounded. Byron Pierce was silent for a few seconds, and when he saw my dumbfounded face, he finally cleared his voice again a little awkwardly. I'm asking you to come over here and play my girlfriend with me when you need to, like you did today. Oh, got it. He must be doing it to excite Penelope Ing again, right? He's really willing to spend a lot of money. Never mind, let's do it. He is the debtor anyway. Besides, acting is a familiar thing. For the sake of the yuan, sure, I'll do it. Having finally found a shortcut to pay back the money, I was in a good mood, and started enjoying the after-dinner fruits. My roommate was so sorry to see me chewing on cucumbers that she fed me a few cranberries. Bit down a mouthful of bursting juice. Just this flavor, good lord. It was so sour that I threw a wink. Byron Pierce was positively blasted by my winks. After admiring my embarrassment for a while, the corner of his lips curved into a faint arc, and he opened his mouth in a mixed tone. Tina Tang, I'm not asking you to act yet. If you're winking at me now, it's not considered work. After a pause, he tilted his head and his smile deepened. Seduced him. I don't know where I got the nerve to shove the rest of my cranberries into his mouth. Sour him to death. Byron Pierce obviously didn't anticipate my elementary school chicken behavior. With this bite, his cool, handsome face was instantly soured into a mask of pain. Shit, God's way is good. While cursing, he also flew his eyes at me uncontrollably like I did just now. I gloated and laughed. Things like winks are infectious. Don't believe me, you eat, you also throw. I didn't expect the storm to come so fast. The next day, the photo of Byron Pierce and I posing in the cafeteria and throwing glances at each other was again splashed all over the campus confession page. The title of the post was Campus Alpha Confession Event Update, Handholding Successful. Eye rolling. Hi sweetness, it's absolutely amazing. In the past, I've only heard of celebrities having personal fans. Why is it that Byron Pierce, a campus alpha, gets photographed everywhere he goes? The scariest thing is that underneath that post, Byron Pierce's minions lined up and replied, "Hi sister-in-law, she's beautiful, she's so nice to our brother Yao, she even gives him cranberries." Sister-in-law and brother Yao are a perfect match, especially in the eyes. Is this the legendary eye gaze? What's that? I still have the photo of you hugging Yayoi and nibbling on his collarbone on his birthday. That's real love. That's real love. Photos are nothing. I even took a video of her. Your sister-in-law was so cute that night. Ha ha ha. No wonder Yao loved it. I closed the computer with a snap and pinched myself. Help, what's going on with Byron Pierce's boys? There are pictures and videos of what happened the other night. My roommates blew up too. As soon as they heard there was video, they all ran to chat privately with the Byron Pierce minions, begging to share it. Luckily the minions replied, "Brother Yao warned us that it's his sister-in-law's video and he won't let it out." The roommates were disappointed, was relieved. However, the next thing I knew, my roommates were excited to play the music of Grouchy Boy in public. They even scowled at me in the middle of Brother Chicken's powerful song. "Tina Tang, you'll be Big Brother's woman from now on, and all the sisters will rely on you for protection." Heard that Byron Pierce's father is worth tens of billions of dollars, and Byron Pierce has only one son, so isn't he the little prince? Cece, you are going to be the campus queen. Goddamn campus queen. Have you ever seen a campus queen who was chased by the crown prince to the point of chewing cucumbers every day? At night, the prince's voice call came, hid under the covers, and answered it in a whisper. "Hello, don't worry about the posts on campus forum. The video won't get out." Byron Pierce actually came to me to explain. I thought about it, and took the opportunity to express my wish at the right time. "Well, it's good that the video won't go out, but it would be nice if they would delete it." Byron Pierce spat out two words faintly. "No," I choked. "Why not?" I don't remember much about that day though, but I can imagine myself hugging Byron Pierce and nibbling on him. I was so ashamed that I wanted to die. This kind of thing was caught on camera. It's Black history any way you think about it, right? Byron Pierce tone lazy. "I'll leave you evidence to prevent you from reneging on your debt." Come on, a man, you're campus alpha. How dare I renege? He's saving the video to make fun of me on purpose. ID really appreciate it. I am hanging up now. I resentfully tried to cut the call. He spoke again. "Something's up." "What?" "I have insomnia, so I'll listen to whatever you have to say." "I don't understand. What's it got to do with me if he has insomnia? Can't I hypnotize him by talking like I'm chanting?" I couldn't help it. I spat. "My name is Tina Tang, not Monk Tang." He let out a low laugh, which was very faint, with a bit of seductive magnetism. "The places that you chewed up, it hurts so much that I can't sleep." "Aren't you responsible for that?" What do you mean by the places I chewed?" I inevitably recalled Byron Pierce's sexy collarbone, and there's the rows of teeth marks left by me, listening to Byron Pierce's breathing on the other end of the phone. I even imagined his dark eyes, which must have held a teasing look, and my face instantly bursts red and I mutter defiantly, "How did you become a campus alpha if you're so afraid of pain?" In the past, I've met him a few times in school. He seemed to get into a lot of fights and had bandages on his arms. His face was very pretty, but unfortunately, he always had band-aids on it, and his eyes were very cold, as if he was a stranger. Such a person would be afraid of pain and insomnia from the pain. I suspect he's deliberately blackmailing me by selling out Byron Pierce. Voice lazy, asked again, negative or not. I did the math. Is it an hourly rate? There was a noticeable pause in his voice. Counts. I was still in a quandary, but I have a class in the morning. Actually, I'd rather say, according to the agreement, when necessary, I and he pretend to stimulate Penelope Ing can be E.as for putting her to bed. It's too private. With our relationship, I'm afraid it's not appropriate, right? Byron Pierce was silent and spoke. Triple the hourly rate. Is this a money shot? He's a tough guy, they'll take it. Deal. So, I wrapped myself up in the quilt and played the role of a chatting companion for him, in order not to disturb my roommate. I spoke like a mosquito. It was like a monk chanting, but Byron Pierce can actually listen to. At the end of the conversation, I casually teased, "When you couldn't sleep, did you have to have someone with you?" Yes, I did. I am a prince, and 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 am a prince. I started to gossip. Who accompanied you? Was it Penelope Ing? Byron Pierce was silent for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was muffled. It's you. I wondered if he was finally getting used to me reading. Suspect that he's finally caught up in my chanting. Why is he talking in his sleep? This was the first time I'd ever had to do this kind of strange job, and I'd never done this kind of sleeping before. Sure enough, a few seconds later, his voice took on a weary tone, and he said faintly, "Forget it, that's enough for today, you go to sleep." It was finally over. However, just as I was finishing up and hanging up the phone, I heard Byron Pierce say something else. "It's always been you." It was my turn to toss and turn and not be able to sleep, because in my mind's eye there was one more image. In the image, Byron Pierce and I had both left college and were now 25 or 26 years old. Nestled in Byron Pierce's arms, resting on his, had just woken up from a nap, and when I looked up, I saw his beautiful eyelashes. The corners of Byron Pierce's mouth lifted slightly and his voice lazily whispered, "Wife," to me. The next thing I knew, he was kissing like a wolf pup, and then later, indescribable. I was blindfolded, blushing, and pinched myself hard to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Help. I'm obviously still a teenage girl, okay? Even if I was with Jason Chin before, the most I did was hold hands and never went any further. But why is it that I can't help but think of these blushing images when I've only known Byron Pierce for a short while? The most speechless thing is that every detail in that image, even the physical feelings, are all real. How can I explain this? I don't know how long it took, but I finally drifted off to sleep, had gained another large memory. It was like a distant but realistic dream. There was me in the dream, there was Byron Pierce, there was Jason Chin, there was everyone. But the content of the dream was nothing like what I was experiencing now. For example, in reality I was the one who got drunk at the fondue restaurant and broke Byron Pierce's expensive designer belt. Then Byron Pierce came to me to claim for the damage, and we both got hung up on the campus confession page together. But in the dream, Byron Pierce had never even been to that fondue restaurant, was alone, drunk, and dragged back to my dorm by my girlfriends. Even throughout my college years, I barely spoke to Byron Pierce. Not only that, also saw the future in that dream. Jason Chen and Penelope Ing hadn't been together long before they broke up. Near graduation, at an alumni reunion, Jason Chen confessed in earnest that he wanted to get back together with me. The students around me were all clamoring for me to say yes. It was a big battle, and I was in a difficult position. Jason Chen's mom was our mentor. That time, she was on the sidelines, watching the scene with a smile. I hesitated for too long, and Jason Chen's mom's smile soon couldn't hold up, and the dissatisfaction in her eyes was practically overflowing. In her opinion, Jason Chen's willingness to turn back to me was nothing short of a gift to me. I would be ungrateful if I refused, and it was at that point in time that Byron Pierce, in the dream, showed up. Byron Pierce stepped between Jason Chen and me, blocking me, was playing with a lighter between his bony fingers, a cold expression on his face, and impatience in his voice. "It's noisy, she doesn't want to say yes, can't you see?" Byron Pierce had a reputation. No one on campus knows that when he enrolled his father donated 3 buildings to the school. In the past few years in college, he has been playing wild games, and no one dares to mess with him. Jason Chin probably never imagined that the confession scene he prepared for half a day would actually make Byron Pierce unhappy. His face immediately collapsed. I want to hear Psyche herself say it, Byron Pierce snorted. Sung. Immediately after that, Byron Pierce turned around, towering over me, his eyes faintly looking askance at me, his thin lips opening and closing. His voice was very deep. Can you settle this quickly? I'm eating. He's so close to me that I look up and crash into his line of sight, inexplicably nervous, feeling like my heart is about to explode. Byron Pierce's tone is still cold, but his eyes are a little softer than before. Only, without waiting for me to say anything, Jason Chen's mom snapped again. Sure, I know you're SHY, and the future. Just be nice to Jason Chin. As a mentor, she still wore that impeccable, kind and friendly smile. However, I could capture that she was forcibly suppressing her anger. She was warning me not to give face. If I rejected Jason Chin in front of so many people, it would be very humiliating for her and her scholarly son. It was ridiculous. Why would there be such noble but hypocritical people? I looked at Jason Chin quietly. No need to wait for the future, Jason Chin. I have no future with you, now Jason Chen. And my mentor's faces froze. Only Byron Pierce lazily lifted his eyelids, a thin smile in his dark eyes. Okay, it's good that you didn't wimp out. I lowered my head and whispered to him, thank you. He didn't pay attention to my thanks, but just swept a glance in Jason Chen's mom's direction and smiled coldly. You guys are pretty good at the bully routine, he said. There was dead silence. Byron Pierce is known for his poisonous tongue, but every word he says now is actually defending me. Jason Chen's mom's face turned blue. Byron Pierce looked back at me again, ruffled his eyelids, and asked carelessly, how can you eat when you've been so turned off? I can't. I told him the truth. Then go. He made it short and simple, and took me away directly in front of everyone's eyes. Maybe Byron Pierce helped me on a whim, but Jason Chen's mom, who was so vindictive, didn't give me a hard time because of Byron Pierce. For this, I am very grateful to him. Although Byron Pierce is handsome, he has a fierce temper. Students and teachers were afraid of him and stayed away from him. Was a little afraid of him at first, too, but I still had the courage to ask him out and invite him to dinner. Surprisingly, he agreed. Also let me go to the basketball court to bring him water and let me accompany him to play the game to score. Finally, he actually took me to his house to meet his very sick grandfather. Before me, Byron Pierce had never had another girl around him. I was the only one, as so many people feared him and were afraid to get close to him. But I've seen the way he buried his head in the crook of my neck and cried his eyes out because his grandfather died. I've also seen him sick with a fever, stumbling towards me in the pouring rain, woefully vulnerable. What I saw more of was the tenderness in his eyes when he smiled at me after he had retreated from his indifference. Later, on graduation day, he stood in the midst of the noisy summer cicadas and looked at me. Tina Tang, don't you always say that you want me to back you up? Just do it, for life, okay? Line. I married him. I woke up the next day. I was in deep thought. My brain was buzzing. Two very different memories were instilled in my mind at the same time. So confusing. Oh, I'm not going to be sick, am I? The splintered. Truly apprehensive, I told my roommate with whom I was the closest, Wang Xiaoting, about my abnormality. Of course, skimming over those juvenile post-wedding details of Byron Pierce and me. Wang Xiaoting is a heavy second-timer. She was obsessed with all sorts of games and anime with themes such as traveling through rebirth and parallel space. After she listened attentively and made sure that I wasn't making things up, her entire body became unusually excited. Sure, it's actually very simple to prove whether those images you saw are true or not. What's your solution? Didn't you say you saw the future? Then is there any secret that you weren't supposed to know, but through those clips you knew in advance? Wouldn't it be better if we went and verified it? Kind of makes sense. Tried to remember. Finally, a shameful secret came to mind. On Byron Pierce's abs, there is a mole. Accidentally said it. Wang Xiaoting's eyes widened. You know all about this. Could it be that you've seen Campus Alpha's abs in your dreams? I blushed. Damn it. Not only have I seen them, I've touched and chewed on them, but what next? I couldn't just open my mouth and ask Byron Pierce, could I? Mr. Byron Pierce, do you have a mole on your abs? Tiny, sexy and cute? I visualized that image and immediately vetoed it. It would be too embarrassing. After thinking about it for a while, I ended up working with Wang Xiaoting and came up with a couple plans. The goal was to get Byron Pierce to lift up his shirt a bit and reveal his abs. It's best to do it up close and personal. so we can easily see if he has that little mole, for this reason. Wang Xiaoting also gave this battle plan a very middle-aged name called Concentrate on the Mole. Me, not bad for her. After that, I didn't care how much I could earn from Byron Pierce or when I could pay off my debt, just wanted to focus on the mole and figure out if I was getting delusional or not. So, Byron Pierce was sweating while playing basketball and I looked concerned. I was concerned. You're sweating so much, aren't you hot? If you're hot, then take off your clothes, right, Byron Pierce? When he was eating, I was serving him soup and accidentally spilled it all over him. Oh my god, it's my fault, I've made you dirty. Does it hurt? Why don't you take off your clothes, Byron Pierce? What? He wanted a Coke, so I secretly shook it and handed it to him as if nothing had happened. When he ripped open the can and got covered in Coke, I rushed forward to take care of him. I hurriedly went up to him and said, "Oh my, why does this Coke just stick to your face? It's so sticky, why don't you take off your clothes first, Byron Pierce?" He asked me to go out with him and wait for me downstairs in the girls' dormitory. The opportunity was not to be missed. Prepared a big bucket of water, opened the window and took aim. Wow! The whole bucket of water accurately poured on his valuable clothes. Campus Alpha turned into a soupy chicken, the entire girls' dormitory, all probing the window, to watch this once-in-a-lifetime scene. I grabbed the time to run downstairs, while taking a towel to him to wipe the water, while sincerely suggested, "I didn't see you standing here, it's drenched your clothes. Why don't you take them off, Byron Pierce?" His eyelashes were wet and his cold white face was foggy. After half a day of staring at me, he gritted his teeth and asked in a helpless tone, "Do my clothes have a grudge against you?" Not far away, a few of Byron Pierce's minions followed beside him with tisk-tisk sounds. "Sister-in-law, you are ruthless." "Yes, sister-in-law, it's okay for you to tease Brother Yai every day, but Brother Yai thinks you're playful and spoils you. But recently Brother Yai is sick, so it's better to stop. Brother Yai just got out of the hospital. Brother Yi just got out of the hospital, and you poured such a big bucket of cold water on him. Sister-in-law, do you want to murder your own husband?" I froze. Byron Pierce glared back at the boys viciously. "You're so fucking talkative, get the fuck out of here." The boys were not annoyed by Byron Pierce's scolding, but whistled and walked away. Was dumbfounded. Byron Pierce is sick. He just got out of the hospital. What kind of sick? That part wasn't in the memory I had acquired. Wasn't he pretty fierce when he played a while ago? I stared at Byron Pierce and couldn't help but lower my head guiltily when I saw that his face was definitely paler than usual. "You'd better take off your wet clothes and change, the weather is cold." It's easy to catch a cold because of the repeated defeats before. Wang Xiaoting and I also purposely made a ruthless effort this time. That bucket of water was calmed with ice, and it was penetratingly cold, in order to make Byron Pierce bear it and have to take it off. Who knows how he tossed himself into the hospital after being so miserable these past few days. Byron Pierce inclined his head to take a deep breath, wiped a handful of icy water on his face, and turned back to me, staring at me and asking, "Tina Teng, what's going on in that head of yours every day?" I feigned ignorance and chattered in a low voice, "You are my debtor, what can I do with you?" Byron Pierce let out a small laugh. "Do you want me to take my clothes off?" He was too direct. "There are still students passing by on the side. Hey, you should change first, I'm afraid you'll catch cold." The more I said, the more I was ashamed. I blushed and didn't dare to look at him. "I'm afraid I'll catch a cold." He snapped the water droplets on his fingers. "Meaningful. Hey, I thought you were afraid of me dying of heat. Want me to live water festival every day?" Speechless, I handed him the oversized t-shirt I had prepared in advance. Byron Pierce's expression suddenly froze as he squeezed the flirty pink t-shirt. "Women's?" I nodded. "This is the only one I have, but I borrowed a larger size from my roommate, so it should be okay for a guy to wear, so you can make do with it, Byron Pierce." He tried to turn back to his group of minions, about trying to rub his little brother's clothes. Unfortunately, the minions had just been scolded away from him earlier. Byron Pierce falls silent, a one-word expression on his entire face, and finally manically spits out one word, "lean." Festivity is precious, life is more expensive. In the end, he still cursed and took off his wet clothes in front of people and put on the one I prepared for him. During the process of his changing clothes, I pretended to be calm, but in fact, I kept staring at him dead on with my afterglow, just afraid of missing the details. Finally, I saw it. Byron Pierce has that mole. The location is exactly the same. So, I'm not paranoid. Byron Pierce is, indeed, my future husband. It's just that the price of obtaining this information is a bit high. The picture of Byron Pierce drenched in water was left hanging on the campus forum for a month. Classmates anonymously followed up with hot takes. Campus Alpha turns out to be a wife-beater. Tina Tang is a bully, isn't she? Yes. How else would she dare? I admire her. Byron Pierce's boys are not shy either. Sister-in-law is so brave, she not only dares to chew on Yiko's neck, but also douse Yiko's face in public. Say, don't you guys think Yayo looks good in slutty pink? I'm begging you to let Yayo wear slutty pink more often in the future. Why don't we just go for a full female costume, and Yayo can arrange it someday, just like that. Byron Pierce. Campus Alpha's reputation was ruined in my hands. Became a ladies' man and a wife's man by accident, and I, silently looking at the bill Byron Pierce sent me on WeChat, I ruined a total of 10 sets of clothes and 3 pairs of shoes, each of which was worth a lot of money. The total sum added up. He even asked me to pay $500,000. Surprisingly, he even said it was after a 30% discount of me, so he wore a sweat on his body when he went to school. Brother Yayo, I really don't have any money, I learned. The honorifics his little brothers used for him and half-deadly reneged on the debt, messaging him back, you couldn't sell me for $500,000. Byron Pierce was silent. He's always like this lately, chatting on WeChat and then disappearing. Before I knew it, several months had passed since the day I drunkenly chewed on his designer belt. From summer to fall, our relationship seems to be getting closer and closer. It's just that since the last time when I threw water all over him and ruined his reputation as a campus alpha, he hasn't come to me much. Didn't even see him at school anymore. I waited until late afternoon, but Byron Pierce still didn't respond to my messages. I called. No one answered. I opened my account and went on the game to see if Byron Pierce was online. As a result, I only saw his silent avatar. It shows that he hasn't logged into the game for 2 months. When I think back to the summer, he was always on the phone urging me to pay him back. I couldn't pay him back. I had to lose sleep with him, chat with him, and play games with him. Now he doesn't lose sleep anymore. Doesn't he need me to chat with him anymore? Did he even quit his favorite game? There's a devil in everything. In the past, when Byron Pierce's boys saw me, they would start shouting at me from afar, calling me sister-in-law every time. Always let me embarrassed to no avail. But now, they've also become strange, and when they see me, they take a detour. Couldn't even catch anyone when I tried to inquire with them about Byron Pierce's status. What a hell. From there, it was a number of days. Carried my cell phone with me at all times, afraid I'd miss a message from him. All I had to do was close my eyes and I'd think of Byron Pierce's cold, gangly face, and his smiling eyes when he lifted his eyelids to look at me. Memories of the past, images of the future, kept alternating and overlapping in my mind. I realized with chagrin that I seem to be in love with Byron Pierce. When I couldn't hear from him, I was bored and swiped through the web. Suddenly, the name of a luxury brand designer caught my attention. Byron Pierce said that the designer belt that I ruined was from this designer. I clicked in and browsed around the official website, but I didn't see the style of Byron Pierce's designer belt. Oh yeah, he said it was customized. That kind of thing probably wouldn't be publicized online. However, just as I was about to close the page, I came across another announcement. The brand has been in business since 2 years ago. The brand has stopped accepting private customization since 2 years ago. What about Byron Pierce's designer belt? Did he swindle me? I was even more confused. At that moment, my cell phone screen suddenly lit up. It was Byron Pierce's WeChat. My last message was a joke in which I deliberately called him Brother Yai and laughed at myself for selling myself for less than 500,000 RMB. It's been a whole week since then. He finally replied to me. As usual, his tone of voice was the same. You're calling me again. Tell me, whose skull do you want my brother to screw? Actually, it's better to call me Brother Love than Brother Ye. I had mixed feelings for a moment. There were so many things I wanted to ask him that for a moment, I didn't know which sentence to start with. After a while, Byron Pierce said, well, you really aren't worth $500,000. I was about to go ballistic, but then he came back with the next sentence. Byron Pierce, at least, in my grandfather's eyes. Tina Tang, you're worth $500 million. I asked curiously, what do you mean? Nothing, I'm just kidding. A joke. I stared at those words for more than a minute, because suddenly, I remembered something that would happen in the future. 3 years later, Byron Pierce's grandfather would become very ill and die. Grandpa Bowie loved his grandson very much, and his greatest regret was that he didn't get to see Byron Pierce get married and have children. But Grandpa Bowie had secretly prepared everything long before he left. Didn't know who his future grandson's daughter-in-law would be, but with a heart of love for His children and grandchildren, he left behind a whole $500 million. Net dream about the future. On the day Byron Pierce and I got our license, a bunch of lawyers, trusts, and notaries came. Those people were all commissioned by Grandpa Pierce before he died. They sent the $500 million of property left behind by Grandpa Bowie to my hands. I was completely dumbfounded. Byron Pierce just said, at least in his grandfather's eyes, "I'm worth $500 million. Did he mean this?" But all of this should be 3 years later. Grandpa Byron Pierce had been hiding it from him before he was born. Then how could Byron Pierce know about the future? For a moment, I had a particularly bizarre guess. Byron Pierce, where are you? I'll see you. It had been too long since I'd seen him. That guess, I had to confirm with him in person. What, did you miss me? Byron Pierce's tone was still loose and impish as he flirted with me. My heart beating extremely fast, I replied to him, yes, I missed you. As a result, he didn't respond for a long time, just when I was so nervous that I thought he was going to disappear again. Byron Pierce replied, and it was a voice reply. My hand trembled a little apprehensively. I pressed open his voice message. Byron Pierce said 3 words in a row. His entire state didn't seem quite right. The original magnetic and cold voice line now sounded a little tired and hoarse, but in his tone, there was a kind of stubbornness as if he was holding on strongly. I also miss you, Tina Tang. Old me miss you so much that I want to go fucking crazy, but I am not convenient to see you now. You wait a little longer. I'll wait a little longer. What the hell am I waiting for? I dialed a phone. As a result, there was a mechanical voice on the phone. Sorry. The number you have dialed is not in service. He is into which mountain nook to go. I'm really impressed. Byron Pierce hasn't been heard from again. I can't take it anymore. Good thing there's a way. The fall games are coming up, and several of Byron Pierce's boys are on the varsity basketball team and will be training every day. They must know something. In order to find out what was going on with Byron Pierce, I called up my roommates and decided to go to the stadium. And why? Roommates are usually nosy and gossipy, but when it comes down to it, they're the real deal. I waved my hand. Sisters, go. Those little abrasive goblins went straight to the stadium with me. The girls were out in force. As I entered the stadium, I took a look around. Sure enough, my buddies who usually hang out with Byron Pierce were there. I give my sisters a wink up. The sisters immediately spread out. They took all 3 exits of the basketball gym. The teenagers at the stadium are like walking hormones. Wang Xiaoting is with me, blocking the front door. She pointed to a handsome boy wearing a number 11 jersey. Sissy, that junior, I remember his name is Zhou Jing. Zhou Jing, 1 year younger than us. From the finance department. Byron Pierce's childhood friend. Wang Xiaoting nodded in an appreciative tone. The hand that covered the ball just now was quite handsome. Well, it was good. In particular, Zhou Jing's opponent just now was my ex-boyfriend, Jason Chen. He covered Jason Chen's ball in front of everyone. Not a good-looking and good-grade student like Jason Chen was the center of girls' attention wherever he went. There were a lot of girls on the scene who were feeling sorry for Jason Chen and heartbroken for their school godbrother. Remember when Jason Chen and I were together, Jason Chen never took the initiative to make it clear to the public that I was his real girlfriend. There was even a time when I went to pass him water, was pushed aside by other girls, and fell in a mess. Jason Chen was indifferent, just glanced at me lightly and said with a jaded look, Tina Tang, don't come here anymore. Couldn't understand, and with a sense of grievance, I asked him why. Jason Chen explained afterward, Sissy, sorry, you're there. I'll be distracted when I'm playing. His attitude was so gentle and apologetic. After that, I really never came back, but I didn't realize until after we broke up. Jason Chen didn't let me come to see him because of Penelope Ng, was playing cool and handsome on the court. Penelope brought her sisters to cheer him on. If I, his real girlfriend, showed up from time to time, it would really make things difficult for him. Today, after half a year, I'm here again, only this time it is no longer to see Jason Chen. There's not much left to see of him. Byron Pierce's group of minions don't know how much enmity and resentment they have with Jason Chen. They have been intercepting Jason Chen's ball. Jason Chen's attempts to be cool have ended up being a joke. Gradually, even the girls who came to cheer for Jason Chen outside the arena, their voices were weakened. Jason Chen was abused to the point of doubting his life, finally. Couldn't hold back, grimaced and questioned, are you guys sick? Why are you all staring at me? Zhou Jing let out a giggle. I can't help it. Brother Yai told me that I have to be civilized in school and not to use my hands. But Brother Yai also said that I have to be civilized in school and not to do anything. But Brother Yai also said that even though we don't do anything, if we see you, we have to abuse you once. Who told you to bully our sister-in-law in the past? Next to him, There was a younger brother who chimed in, yeah, don't you like to play ball and pretend to be a bully? Come on, go on. Jason Chen's face looked terrible. After a few seconds of confrontation, he slammed the basketball on the ground and turned away in anger, and my heart shook violently. So, it was Byron Pierce who had explained his brothers to take revenge on Jason Chen and take out my anger for me. Injustice is always a narrow road. Since Jason Chen came to play today, Penelope Ng was naturally there. Penelope Ng probably felt humiliated to the extreme when she saw her boyfriend being abused. On the court, her face had long been taut. After Jason Chen left, she took a few steps to me and opened her mouth to mock. Tina Tang, can you have some face? First you seduced my brother, and now you come to the stadium and pester Jason Chen. Are you a whore? Didn't Jason Chen tell you before? He hates you coming here. As soon as Penelope Ng finished speaking before I could do anything, Wang Xiaoting was the first one to get angry on my behalf. She rushed over to me with an air as if she was going to pull someone's hair, hurriedly stopped her. Don't be impulsive, don't be impulsive. A Wang Xiaoting is a northeastern girl, righteous and straightforward, open-mouthed dislike. Listen to what she's cursing you with. How can you tolerate that? I think she's the bitch. I nodded. Well, I can't stand her either. I was under the mistaken impression that Byron Pierce might like Penelope Ng, and that there was some kind of sibling romance going on. Now, I'm silently reviewing. I really shouldn't have tarnished Byron Pierce's aesthetic like that. Penelope Ng's eyes glazed over in anger. What did you say? Say it again. Looking at Penelope Ng's furious look, I couldn't help but laugh instead of getting angry. Sung, you like listening to me so much. I'll tell you a few more things. First of all, who said I came to the court just to watch Jason Chen? Besides, what's so great about his game? Is it for me to watch him being covered with hot pots all the time? That's ridiculous. Secondly, Jason Chen hates me. He doesn't want me to come. Why can't I come? What? His family built the school. His family owns the stadium. Third, you seem to forget that Byron Pierce said you're not related and he doesn't even recognize you as his sister. Show some respect and stop putting the Byron Pierce name on your face. Don't usually dislike people, but when I do, I like to dislike people to death. There were quite a number of students gathered around. My voice was not too loud and not too small, just enough to be heard by my classmates, winning in terms of clarity. Penelope Ng has always claimed to be Byron Pierce's sister, but in reality, Byron Pierce doesn't even talk to her. But many of my classmates have witnessed what happened between Byron Pierce and me, and there are all kinds of high-resolution photos on the campus confession page to prove it. Whose word is more credible? The skepticism of the students towards Penelope Ng says it all. So Penelope Ng is not the sister of Campus Alpha. She has been fooling people before. TSK. Usually when there's a problem, she loves to bully others and tell her brother. But now it seems that her relationship with Byron Pierce isn't that good either. I've heard that the one who almost got dipped by Campus Alpha was actually a member of the outside community. And although Campus Alpha looks a little mean and cold, he's never bullied any of our classmates. Yeah, everyone always likes to make jokes about Campus Alpha in the campus forum, but Campus Alpha never cared about. Instead, it's her. She never stops talking about it. Ha 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 ha. So just now Jason Chen played ball and kept getting covered in hot pots. Is that considered bullying by Campus Alpha's minions? That's not called bullying, that's called being less skilled, right? Penelope Ng's pride and joy. The umbrella of vanity I poked and prodded her in front of people. She was so embarrassed that she desperately tried to explain with red eyes, but she's usually so arrogant that she's trampled on the dignity of too many of her classmates, and now she wants to make up for it. It's too late. Didn't bother with Penelope Ng, and pulled Wang Xiaoting towards the center of the court. Let's go, it's time to get down to business. As soon as Byron Pierce and his buddies saw me, they tried to run away again. Luckily, my roommates were able to block the exit. They didn't dare to bully my sisters, and in the end, none of them ran away. The boys lined up in a row with a wilted look. Hello, sister-in-law. Hello, sister-in-law. Hello, sister-in-law. Hello, sister-in-law. Hello, sister-in-law. Anyone who caught my eye would call me sister-in-law in a half-dead voice. Oh, now I've really become Big Brother's woman. Asked helplessly, where's Byron Pierce now? Why doesn't he come to school anymore? The boys looked at each other in disbelief, and no one would answer. Seeing this, I raised my finger and pointed at someone. Zhou Jing, you tell me. His relationship with Byron Pierce was, in Beijing dialect, an iron magnet, so he must know the most. Zhou Jing looked at me in a difficult way, a tall man of more than 1 meter tall, with the word wronged seed written all over his face, as difficult as a bitter melon. Sister-in-law, also brother he may just do not love to study, lazy to come to school. Want you To wait again, I was angry by his set of words, he doesn't like to study. Oh, what am I waiting for? I'm not going to be able to get the best out of him. Wang shouting originally has been hugging lazily listening to the gossip. This moment did not hold back, directly giggled, laughed. You can't call our sissy your sister-in-law while treating her like a fool. This kind of excuse you don't even believe it yourself when you say it, right? Zhou Jing lightly swept a glance at Wang shouting and let out a dangling thin laugh, a playful flirtation coming out of his dark and glistening eyes. Sister, you're so pretty, why do you talk so solidly? Beware of not being able to find a boyfriend. Zhou Jing's words were a bit mixed. It was as if the well-behaved boy standing in front of me with a difficult face just now was simply an illusion, then realized, and rightly so, this group of second-generation kids usually followed Byron Pierce to play, and of course their temperaments were all not to be messed with. The fact that they were nice to me was entirely due to Byron Pierce's face. Wang shouting still wanted to dislike me again, but I didn't want to waste time, stopped her and asked Zhou Jing, what's going on with Byron Pierce? As soon as Zhou Jing turned to me, he turned into a bitter face in distress again. Sister-in-law, it's not that I won't say anything, it's that Brother Yai specifically warned us not to divulge it to others, especially you. It looks like the situation is quite serious. Okay, don't say it, I'll guess. I took a deep breath, and based on my experience of reading novels, I started to eliminate them one by one. What, is he getting ready to leave the country? No. Is he forced to marry a rich white woman? No. He has a half-brother who's competing for the family fortune and can't be bothered. No. He's got a girl who came back from abroad. No. Then what's wrong with him? He disappears all the time. Is he sick? This time Zhou Jing didn't deny it. I froze for a while before reacting to as sick, suddenly remembered that once before, when I splashed Byron Pierce with a bucket of ice water, Zhou Jing and the others were flirting and had once spoken out of turn. They said that Byron Pierce had just gotten out of the hospital that time, that had been sick since that time. When I opened my mouth again my throat was a little sore and I asked incredulously, no, is he really sick? Is it that bad? He's too sick to come to school. He can't even answer his messages. How serious is this? Is he dying? In the future I see, there's no such thing as Byron Pierce being terminally ill, is there? Zhou Jing's face darkened as he listened and hurriedly waved his hands. Blah blah blah, Brother Byron isn't dead. He's sick. Cough cough. Sister-in-law, it's not what you think. I was confused and asked, then what kind of disease is he suffering from? Zhou Jing's expression was a bit embarrassed, barely raised his hand and pointed to the location of his head. Me. Wait. What? Byron Pierce is sick in the head. Under my coercion, Zhou Jing finally took me to the hospital where Byron Pierce was staying. It's a high-class private sanatorium built on a hill. It's not big, but it's got a great environment and privacy. And the entire sanatorium, there was only one patient, Byron Pierce. Zhou Jing, his face bereft, explained, when Yao realized he was sick, he took over this place. Yayoi had no mother for a long time, and his father only knew how to make money, and married a stepmother, who was not very nice to him. He said, the only person who has been good to Yayoi is his grandfather, but his grandfather's health is not good, and Yayoi is afraid that if he finds out about his illness he'll be irritated, so he's hiding it from the public. On the school side, firstly, Penelope Ing is there, and he is quite annoyed with her, fearing that she will expose everything to the public. Secondly, Yi is too ashamed of his illness and doesn't want you to know about it, so he didn't say anything. Looked at Byron Pierce, who was lying on the hospital bed, quietly sleeping. There were electrodes attached to his head. The other end of the electrode is connected to a computer. What was on the computer screen was his sleep electroencephalogram. I'm used to seeing Byron Pierce's poisonous and ferocious behavior, and it's rare for me to see his sleeping face so well behaved, only, this time when I saw him his face was a bit paler than normal and his jawline was noticeably thinner. What's wrong with his brain? It's not stupid, is it? I thought, I asked calmly, but I didn't expect the voice to come out of my throat with a crying tone. Zhou Jing gave a look of a blank expression and tried to describe it for me. On the contrary, it's not stupid yet, but how can I say it? It looks like it's getting close. Sister-in-law, do you believe that someone can travel back in time from the future? Yayoi told me once before, when he wasn't so sick, that he came back from 7 years ago. At that time, I thought he was bullshitting, but he told me a few more things, and then they all came true one by one. He started to get frequent headaches, so frequent that he couldn't sleep. He said finally, he was able to sleep only from then on. He slept longer and longer. The doctor said that if he continues like this, if he doesn't find a solution, his sanity will probably be affected as well. My whole body stiffened as I listened. Ever since I met Byron Pierce, there have always been more images in my mind out of nowhere. Last time Byron Pierce mentioned that his grandfather had left $500 million. I guess Byron Pierce, like me, knows where future events are headed to. As a result, now, Zhou Jing told me that Byron Pierce not only knows the future, he is simply from 7 years later, so what the hell is this, even if it's traveling through, there has to be an opportunity, right? Zhou Jing saw me froze and delayed to respond, so he cleared his voice and continued. The doctor monitored that Brother Yuya's brainwaves weren't quite normal, but he couldn't find out the exact cause. In short, it's quite complicated. He sleeps like this most of the time. He wakes up once every 2 or 3 days. After waking up, sometimes the state is normal, but sometimes, he stopped in mid-sentence, pressed, sometimes how Zhou Jing pointed to the location of his brain. He's been sleeping for quite a while. He should wake up today, you'll see. It seems that the effects of this disease on Yiko's sanity have already begun. I understand why Byron Pierce wouldn't tell me. Is full of pride and arrogance, has always been open and reckless, and good face. Naturally, he didn't want people to see the mess he was in. Zhou Jing and I looked at the sleeping Byron Pierce on the hospital bed, both silent. Only after a long time did Zhou Jing open his mouth again, his tone rare and serious. Brother Yayoi told me that because his current consciousness came from the future, it fought against his original consciousness, and that's why he became like this. Always said that we should wait a little longer. Just think of it as him having a date with someone, only this time the opponent is himself, so it might be a little more difficult, but there will always be a result. Guess who will be left behind when they're done fighting? I thought hard about it, but in the end I thought, whoever stays is fine. After all, he's still him. 7 years from now. As long as he is him, is good. Zhou Jing froze and suddenly smiled. Also right. Zhou Jing left, saying that Byron Pierce had asked him to run some other errands before he passed out, and that he'd be back in a couple days. Instead of leaving, I asked my roommate to take a vacation for me. Byron Pierce was wearing a loose hospital gown when he went to sleep. Swept my eyes down to Byron Pierce's neck and to his collarbone. The teeth marks there had long since healed, and there was no longer any sign that I had gnawed on them in the first place. Moving my eyes upward, I looked to his thin lips. It looked kissable, so I leaned in. I only sneak a shallow peck. Just about to leave, was stopped by a pair of hands around the waist. A weak voice, tinted with the magnetism of just waking up, with a teasing tone, fell into my cochlea. I caught you again, Tina Tang. My heart shook. The moment I looked up, I crashed into Byron Pierce's dark eyes. Still had electrodes on his head, and his whole body looked miserable. This man, who was on the verge of becoming a fool himself, was still smiling at me in a wild and gangly way. This time, how do you want to pay for it? Is it okay to be caught in the act? My whole face was burning. Almost thought Byron Pierce was sleeping like a vegetable when I heard Zhou Jing describe him. Now, it seems like he's okay. I asked tentatively. Byron Pierce, how are you? Okay. I've been sending you a lot of messages, but you haven't answered any of them. Huh? Byron Pierce looked confused and went to touch his cell phone. That's when he saw the bunch of swipe-like messages when I couldn't find him earlier. First he gave a little tickle to the corner of his mouth, obviously a little happy, but then he furrowed his brows as if he suddenly remembered something. Right, why did you come here? Did Zhou Jing bring you here? I hurriedly said, it was me who forced him. I brought my entire dormitory girlfriends to block him. He had no choice. Byron Pierce's voice went cold. Tina Tang, go home. Don't poke around, trying to avoid me again. No way. I've already taken a vacation. I am fine. I'll stay here with you for the next 2 days. His face turned ugly. No need, just go back and wait. You don't need me. Then who was the one who said on the phone that he missed me like crazy? I sat down and munched on an apple. I think you do. He lifted his eyelids and looked at me with a fixed expression. Tina Tang, I'm not in my right mind right now. When I have a seizure, it doesn't look good. Yeah, I know. He thought he was a good actor. In fact, he's weak. I could tell right away that he was trying to get rid of me, but his eyes were trying to keep me. That's why I'm here. He couldn't do anything about it, but for the first time he got really angry, took off all the electrodes on his head, ripped off all the various testing equipment, and dragged me out of the room. The whole ward was filled with alarms. The doctors and nurses were all attracted, but he did not care, pushing and shoving. Non said to send me back to school, only, he had only dragged me a short distance out of the hospital room when he suddenly covered his head and bent over with a pained look on his face. Byron Pierce's entire spine shivered, as if head suddenly taken off. couldn't even hold the car keys in his hand and dropped them to the floor. It was the first time I'd ever seen him have a headache attack. With red eyes, I picked up the car keys and asked him angrily, Byron Pierce, in your condition, how dare you drive me? Sending me to the West with you. Byron Pierce's face was extremely pale, and he was in so much pain that he couldn't even breathe, so he was even more incapable of explaining himself. When he finally got over it and looked up at me again, his eyes became dull and blank. Where is this? What am I doing? He looked around and stumbled forward, as if looking for an exit. He didn't recognize the place. Don't know if it's one of Byron Pierce's perceptions that's at fault. Was like a little kid who couldn't find his home, couldn't tell where he was going, and didn't know who he was. I stared at this in disbelief for a moment. Byron Pierce walked back and forth, getting more and more panicked, and finally grabbed me and asked, where is my designer belt? Have you seen my designer belt? Me, what designer belt? At that moment the doctor and the nurse rushed out, holding a broken designer belt high in their hands. They coaxed Byron Pierce back into the hospital room like a kitten with a teasing stick. After a good toss and turn, Byron Pierce passed out again. I'm dumbfounded. Wait a minute. The designer belt that the doctor used to coax Byron Pierce. Isn't it the one that I chewed up like a beef jerky half a year ago? What does Byron Pierce want with it? Shouldn't he have gotten rid of it long ago? I was staring at the designer belt, almost staring a hole in it. After staring at it for so long, I thought it looked familiar. It was as if I had seen this designer belt before, but I couldn't remember. Remembered that I didn't find any information about this designer belt last time. Could it be? While I was guessing, the doctor came out. That designer belt is a spiritual comfort item for the patient. I couldn't understand. What can be consoled by a designer belt that is broken like this? The doctor explained it in a more prosaic way, convinced that his soul came from the future. The patient said that the designer belt was actually a gift from his wife 7 years later. He traveled back in time with that designer belt. Too much information, that's okay. Pondering the doctor's words, I suddenly realized the crux of the matter. But there were still some details that needed to be sought. I dialed Zhou Jing's phone. Hello, sister-in-law, is brother Ye awake? Woke up, but now he's sleeping again. Let me ask you, Zhou Jing. Half a year ago when Byron Pierce celebrated his birthday at the Hot Pot restaurant, you should have been there, right? Yes. Didn't I break one of Byron Pierce's designer belts? Who gave him that designer belt? Zhou Jing was silent. I don't know. We were the only ones who celebrated Yaoi's birthday. No one gave him a designer belt, but Yayoi brought it himself, right? Didn't you guys say you took a video of me and Byron Pierce? Can you pass it on to me? Sure. Right after that, after hanging up the phone, I received a video message from Zhou Jing on my WeChat. In the video, the hot pot was bubbling with aroma. Drunkenly and boldly, I took 3 steps towards Byron Pierce. Probably because I was so angry at the thought of Penelope Ng being his sister, I ripped open the seat next to Byron Pierce and sat down on my butt, and began to puff and gulp. As I ate, I glared at Byron Pierce. Byron Pierce's minions were stunned by my feat. Byron Pierce himself, on the other hand, just stared at me blankly. As I ate, I probably tried to grab some food, but ended up being so clumsy that I accidentally almost flung my whole body into the hot pot soup on the table. There was a gasp of surprise around us. Holy shit! Byron Pierce was quick to catch me, yanked me into his arms, staring at me out of the corner of his eye, his voice raspy. What do you want to eat? Sit still and I'll fix it for you. One word stirred 1,000 waves. Byron Pierce's boys are all starting to get up in arms. Yo, yay. Who's this girl? She's a good eater, yay. You've changed your ways. Thought you weren't interested in picking up girls. So that's what you like. She's a good-looking girl, but she's a bit silly. She's not stupid. I think she's okay. She's a good match for brother Yeo, and she's cute when she's drunk. Ha ha ha. Byron Pierce coldly raised his eyes and swept the dining table. His face was gangly and handsome, his thin lips closed, and he spat out cool words. Don't even fucking talk shit out there. Remember clearly this. In the future you have to call sister-in-law. The box was dead silent. After a long time, only a little brother asked incredulously, no way, brother, are you for real? In the camera, Byron Pierce is concentrating on peeling the shrimp for me. After peeling a shrimp, he feeds it into my mouth as if he were a fool. Opening his mouth again, he responded to his little brother in a lazy tone, well really, here because of her. When I saw this, I was already in tears without realizing it, and behind the video. It's my alcohol-paralyzed brain's death-defying act. I hugged and nibbled on Byron Pierce's collarbone and yelled for a duck neck. Byron Pierce not only did not push me away, but hugged me tighter, and tenderly stroked my head, and his eyes got redder. And then later, it was me opening the gift box, picking up the designer belt and throwing it into the hot pot. Also screamed fiercely that I want to eat shabu shabu beef jerky. Byron Pierce stopped me and asked with a low smile, "Are you sure you want to eat it? You spent $200,000 on me in the future." Ignore him. Added that it wasn't the price, but the handmade cowhide that was too much for his teeth. Also said that in a few years, he'll have a dental problem and a toothache in the middle of the night. Byron Pierce's boys laughed and laughed, thinking that Byron Pierce was telling a joke. Didn't know what he was talking about, so I just kept on chewing. Byron Pierce sighs helplessly. "Never mind, I'll take you to the dentist early this time anyway." The entire video ends. I lay on the edge of Byron Pierce's hospital bed, sobbing uncontrollably. The next day, Chow King came in. I told him about Byron Pierce's condition yesterday as if nothing had happened. Zhou Jing listened and laughed bitterly. "That sounds crazy, doesn't it? There's more, huh? I thought Yaya said that he came back from the past, so we laughed at his bullshit. Asked him, why did you come back here when you were doing just fine in the future? What do you think Yaya said? What did he say? He said his daughter-in-law ran away, so he came back to look for her." Ha 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 ha. I wanted to laugh along with him, but I ended up crying. Zhou Jing was shocked by me, handing me tissues in a hurry. "No, sister-in-law? I was just telling a joke. Why did I make you cry?" I couldn't control my tears, because, since yesterday, the moment I got close to Byron Pierce, I have been slowly recovering my memories. As of this moment, I have remembered everything. It's funny. Those so-called images of the future that I had foreseen were actually memories from before I was reborn. Died once. I'm a reborn person, only after I was reborn, I got sick, the exact same illness as Byron Pierce. There is a limit to the amount of intention a body, a brain, can carry. My soul at that time was about not much of a fighter, so I chose to retain my original consciousness, thus hiding the memories of my last life, all of them, until Byron Pierce began to appear in my life. His existence inspired me to pick up those hidden memories little by little. In my last life, I died the 3rd year after marrying Byron Pierce. After graduation, Byron Pierce, as the only child of the Bowie family, inherited his father's fortune, and after I married Byron Pierce, I was spoiled by him. Byron Pierce was always cold and unapproachable outside, but every night, when he nibbled on my ear, he was as passionate as a fire, like a wolf or a tiger. Although married to Byron Pierce, I do not worry about food and clothing, go out to drive a supercar, home to live in a mansion, but I still can't be idle. So I took a teaching certificate and became an art teacher, responsible for teaching a group of children to draw. In those days, under the arrangement of the school, we went into the mountains for sketching. Dozen or so kids got together to draw. It was really noisy, but also very cute. After marriage, Byron Pierce never wanted me to have a baby. One day he said he was afraid that it would hurt too much to have a baby. At the same time, he said he was afraid that I would ignore him if I had a baby. It's just too much. During the days of sketching in the mountains, I intentionally took a lot of videos of cute and adorable kids for Byron Pierce. Byron Pierce looked helpless on the other end of the phone. Finally, he gave in and coaxed me in a lazy voice. "Okay, I get it. When you get back, we'll have a baby." The day of the accident was Byron Pierce's birthday. Because of my work, I was out of town and couldn't celebrate his birthday in person. Even sent a special message to Byron Pierce. "You should have opened your present." I secretly begged the French designer for a long time before he agreed to customize it. It cost me 200,000 soft dollars. Oh, you know why I gave you the designer belt? Because it's the only way to keep you tied to me. I'll make it up to you when I get back. Love you, hubby. Happy birthday. But I couldn't go back. It was bad luck. There was a 10-year rainstorm in the mountains and a landslide. The situation was so critical that many passers-by were buried. I am a teacher, and my students were swept into the mud flow. I had no choice, had to save her. That child, who the day before had been smiling innocently at me with a look of adoration, asked me, "Teacher, when will I be able to draw as good as you?" I remember at that time, I rubbed her head and said to her with a smile, "Soon, soon." She was a very cute girl. She called me teacher and complimented me on my skills. This time, she called me in the rainstorm. How could I bear to let her down? Good thing I did. I was actually scared before I died. I was only in my 20s. I wasn't short of money or love, and I hadn't created enough. And Byron Pierce, he's still waiting for me to come home. But there's no way out. Byron Pierce, he shouldn't blame me too much, should he? He's the last thing on my mind. Happy birthday, Byron Pierce. I am sorry, Byron Pierce. I'm sorry, Byron Pierce, but I'm sorry, Byron Pierce. I looked at the sleeping Byron Pierce in the hospital bed. Had to think about another question. Was he also reborn back? Moreover, the future, he also occupied his main consciousness. But whenever one is reborn, death must come first. Could it be that in the last life, after my death, I first smiled helplessly, but my eyes were wet. I held his hand to pay students. Are you stupid? Byron Pierce, this lying. A full week did not wake up. During this time, I guarded his hospital bed for a while, crying and laughing, scaring Zhou Jing a lot. Zhou Jing said one after another. Zhou Jing kept saying, no, 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 no. Sister-in-law, you don't scare me. Otherwise when turn back also brother woke up, he will kill me. Ignoring him, I continued to lie down on Byron Pierce's ear and recite some messy trivialities. When addressing him, he deliberately dragged his voice and called him husband. Weakview exclaimed that he was a sadistic dog. Actually, it's because I've experienced it. I know that it's an effective way to stimulate Byron Pierce's consciousness. Doctors monitoring Byron Pierce's brainwaves also say he's getting better, but he just doesn't wake up. Finally, half a month later, couldn't wait any longer. I yelled at his bed. Byron Pierce, if you don't wake up, we're getting a divorce. Divorce, okay? After yelling, I fell on the bed and cried. But I was crying on the strength, but heard a low, gloomy gnashing of teeth voice from the hospital bed. You dare to leave one try? I inclined my head and followed the voice. It was evening. The setting sun shone into the ward. Outside the window was a reddish haze, with gentle light reflecting lightly on Byron Pierce's face. His face was slightly white, but he had dark and beautiful eyes. His brow was lined with amused anger, as if he'd just woken up from a nightmare and couldn't tell which world he was in for a moment. Broke into a smile, however, when I laughed, he became even more angry. He coughed a few times, muffled his voice, and menacingly repeated the amused threat. Tina Tang, you dare to try divorce? I laughed out loud, bursting into tears, and flung myself softly into his arms. Byron Pierce, you're silly. We're still in college, and I haven't even married you yet, so how can I get a divorce? He froze. It was like a dream. It turned out that he and I were both in a reborn world. Gave him a peck on the lips. Campus Alpha, I can't afford to pay you back for what I owe you. How about a marriage? The evening sun outside the window was red, but the tips of Campus Alpha's ears were even redder. Well, then let's get married again. Yes, husband. We have finally crossed the flood of time. Hugged each other tightly, body end. Extra Byron Pierce's perspective. In my last life, Tina Tang didn't listen to me at all. Didn't like children, but she was tired of trying to build one with me every day. I told her to be a rich wife and let me raise her, but she insisted on becoming a teacher. What happened? She really did leave me behind for those little kids learning to paint. She was such a beauty queen. Every day, she'd try to dress up like a leprechaun. Moreover, she has been spoiled by me to the point of ostentation these years, and she hates to get her body dirty. How could she stand it like that and let herself die covered in sludge? After she left, I began to be mentally cloudy and could not sleep. Whenever I closed my eyes, I would fantasize about her struggling in the sludge. Was sick actually. Once upon a time I was sick. She used to be the one who healed me, but after she left, she made me sicker. When you're sick, you have to take medicine. By the way, I don't think I made a wish on my last birthday. Make one at random. I want to dream a dream with Tina Tang in it. This dream may not come true. Have to take lots and lots and lots of medicine for it to be possible. Later, I finally fell asleep. When opened my eyes again, everything had changed. Went back 7 years ago. It turned out that it was really possible to dream about her, only, at this time, she didn't seem to recognize me. What should I do? It's so tempting to go and say hello to her, to tell her, Tina Tang, I am your future husband, but isn't that like a mental illness? Wait, what's with this designer belt in my hand? Wasn't it her birthday gift to me before she died? Why did she wear it with me? I don't know what to do with it. So let's just put it on first. Let's wait. Why is she crying? Damn, it's killing me. Haven't let her cry in all these years. Who's bullying her now? I pretended not to notice, lit a cigarette, expressionlessly inserted the pocket, passed by her. She didn't seem to notice me. Okay, I'll go around a couple more times. As I skipped around her, I kept my ears open and listened carefully to what her roommate was saying to comfort her. Think I got it. Also slowly remembered, oh yeah, she used to date Jason Chen's grandson. That grandson dumped her at first, and then wanted to get back together, which was a big deal at school in her last life. The current timeline seems to be progressing to the time when Jason Chen's grandson just broke up with her. Though, I have to get ahead of the game in this life. Then Zhou Jing called me, said he was going to give me a birthday party and picked out a club and asked me which one I preferred. Why is it my birthday again? So I was reborn 7 years ago, on my 20th birthday, but I don't have the heart to talk to them. This gave them a whatever and hung up. Later, I saw Tina Tang sneaking into a hot pot restaurant by herself, eating hot pot and pouring wine. Zhou Jing called again, Yao, don't be casual, you have to pick one. I was impatient, pick an ass, come directly to the hot pot restaurant in front of the school. Zhou Jing was shocked, what, it's your birthday, and we're going to that shitty place? Get your ass over here. I led the way into the private dining room, picking a good spot where I could see Tina Tang outside. Later, Zhou Jing and his gang arrived, the hot pot table was in chaos, and I was totally distracted, wondering how to talk to Tina Tang, but I didn't expect her to barge in on her own. She was drunk, she was munching away beside me, like a kitten. She got into my arms, and she was furious, scratching and biting, with sharp little teeth. In the end, she threw the designer belt, which had followed me through time, into the hot pot. She actually shat on it, and she chewed on it. She spent $200,000 on my birthday present after 7 years of pain. I don't know. Originally, I was puzzled as to what the purpose of the designer belt was when it followed me to this world. Now I understand. Maybe this is the biggest use of it. After the incident, I coldly approached Tina Tang. She was in a daze, obviously out of it, and couldn't remember anything. Pay up. Threw her the designer belt that she had chewed up. 10,000 for a tooth mark, 200,000 in total. She was dumbfounded and muttered in a low voice, I just chewed your designer belt, not your flesh. My eyelids fluttered, and I tugged down the neckline, revealing the red teeth marks on my collarbone. That was all her work last night. Sure enough, her eyes widened and her whole face turned red, with a smile on my face. I asked her, what now, do you want to pay for it? I knew she wouldn't be able to afford it for a while. Tina Tang, I'll give you my body.